Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is July 2nd, and I want to do a quick overview of how the SBA actually works without any fluff and in layman's terms. So, if you're thinking about borrowing money at this time, these are some things you need to understand with regard to the process. So, these are my personal opinions and my experience based on 16 years of doing this. So, here we have, down here in the left-hand corner, Betty the borrower. Betty just got laid off. Betty's been working for company X for 50 years, 30 years, whatever, and she's got a bunch of money and she wants to buy a business. And she says, I'm going to go out and use the SBA program. So the SBA program is not the bank itself. That is a guarantee that the federal government says to the bank who lends the money. The bank still has to lend the money. So never forget that these guys right here are a business. They are not in the charity business. They are in the business of making money. So they look at you, they look at your deal, they look at your idea, whatever it is that you're trying to buy based upon risk to their business. So their balance sheet, their debt, their failed loans, their bad debt, whatever crisis is affecting them is going to affect their ability to lend to you. So just because the program exists doesn't mean you're going to get the money. So who does Betty talk to? Betty talks to Bob the BDO, Bob the business development officer. Bob's been with the bank. Frankly, Bob's probably been with 50 banks because he bounces around because he's paid a low salary and paid commission to sell a product. The bank sets rules, sets tolerances, sets the tone for what type of businesses they will lend on, and Bob's bonus structure is based upon XYZ, which has to do with the bank's success, not necessarily your success. So they're going to look at your credit rating, they're going to look at your history, and believe it or not, they'll go back 20 years, they'll go back 15 years. They won't just look at the last 3 to 5 because they have to assess your risk and your credibility because they're going to lend you what? Money. So, lesson number 1, the SBA is not giving you the money. The individual bank is giving you the money. So when you pick the bank, big isn't always better. Big means that they have more investments. Big may also mean that the bigger they are, the more susceptible they are to the ebbs and flows of the greater marketplace. That means if they are a large bank and they do a lot of mortgages residentially and there's a housing crash, they're going to have debt, they're going to have a pullback on their lending, and they're going to be less likely to lend to you in a business acquisition due to their debt. You could have the best deal, best seller, best financial books, but if they're having problems on their end, they're not going to lend you money. So Bob's a nice guy. Bob processes the deal and says, hey, I think this is going to work, and he issues you a pre-qual letter. Does that really mean anything? No, because here's what happens. Once you and a seller get together and agree on price and the terms, then Bob has to approve it. Bob approves it. Then it goes over to this guy, Jack the underwriter. Jack looks at the deal. He's more attuned to what's going on with these guys right down here, the board members, right? And Jack is looking at the balance sheet and the risk and the debt and saying, this is what the bank is willing to do. The deal may go all the way back to you and the seller, and they may say, hey, that original deal you had, well, we're not willing to do that anymore. Now we need the seller to do something else, like hold paper, meaning behind our 10-year note, we want the seller to hold $15,000, $20,000, $50,000. Now, are they going to hold that for just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Oh, no. If the bank's going to lend a bunch of money, they want nothing to put their loan at risk, so they make that seller sit in second position behind their note. That can crater the deal. This is one of the primary reasons deals are really, really hard. So if you're a seller watching this, you need to understand that you have to make your business as attractive as possible and prepare yourself for the very real possibility that a bank is going to turn around and say, hey, I know you have a great business. I know the buyer's great, but guess what? We want you to do X. And the bigger you are, the less money and liquidity the individual buyers have, the more you as a seller are going to get leveraged. So does it end there? No. Actually, if it does get approved by Jack the underwriter, it goes to the approval committee. The approval committee can do the exact same thing that Jack the underwriter did and put the process all the way back to you and the seller again. So what am I saying to you? You as a seller and you as a buyer need to absolutely understand how the SBA works. What this little thing in the middle, what their balance sheet looks like, what their credit rating looks like, what their risk and their forward thinking about the state of an economy, what they see coming will dictate how much they will lend in the future, because SBA notes are 10-year notes. So if they think there's a housing crash coming, if they think you're in a business that's cyclic and you're on the tail end of it, say you're buying a construction business and they've been on an 8-year construction boom and the financials look great, but they think the construction boom is coming to an end, they're going to change the terms. You as a seller and you as a buyer need to understand that when you're negotiating and putting your deal together. Hopefully your broker's got some experience in that and you trust your broker and you're listening to them as they educate you up. So this is how the SBA works. No bones, the truth. Any questions, 321-287-0349 or email me at mike@tworld.com.